Dit is vir my so lekker om vanoggend weer met David Fincham te gesels. Hy is van Tilapia Farming Africa en vanoggend fokus ons op die tilapia vis. David, welcome once again to GROOTplaas.
Really great to be back with you.
Now, I know this is a topic you are extremely passionate to talk about, so here's your platform. Tell us about the tilapia fish. You know, what are they? Why are they so in demand?
So tilapia are a naturally occurring African species. There are about 36 odd species that occur in our rivers. They are essentially a river fish, but obviously we've built dams and things like that, and they survive in there. It is a wonderful fish. You know, it's sometimes referred to as St. Peter's fish or the miracle fish, or even in the mid-1980s, an American coined the phrase the aquatic chicken. So it's a chicken that lives in water.
Yeah.
And we've been very blessed to have it and to be able to farm with it. You know, it's now farmed in 100 odd countries around the world. And, you know, we are really fortunate that it's almost as popular as chicken is in the food supply chain.
Yeah. David, are they farmed in South Africa? I know me and you, we've spoken about aquaculture, which is something very exciting. So if you look at tilapia fish, are they physically farmed in South Africa? How big is it and why is it so successful?
So it is farmed in South Africa, and you know, going right back to the kind of beginning where some of the original fish were imported from, you know, other places, and universities such as University of the Western Cape, UCT, Rhodes, University of KwaZulu-Natal, University of the North, have all researched and worked with tilapia, and then had a look at how do we farm those within the communities. And the traditional method of farming is to dig ponds and stock those ponds with fish, and either feed the pond with manure so that you produce the algae, because they are algae-eating fish. They filter feeders, or you would apply, you know, commercial pellets. But the real driving factor for production of tilapia is water temperature. They grow best at a water temperature of 28 degrees Celsius, and there's nowhere in the country that we get those temperatures for certainly 12 months of the year. And in many parts of the country, you're only going to get them for, you know, 4 to 6 months of the year. And so as a farmer, you can farm in seasons, but it's much better if you can farm all year round. And so the development of what we now call recirculating aquaculture systems, where you recirculate your water, and obviously you can heat that water, and we use greenhouses to heat the water because that's all free energy. And by using the greenhouse, we can in most areas in South Africa, because we have such wonderful weather, we can improve the water temperatures in those systems to levels where their growth rates and their production rates are much, much higher than if we just try and farm in open water systems.
I am quite interested. How lucrative is it to farm with tilapia? I mean, if you look at the bigger picture, the need, people who want it, food security, what's your experience in that regard?
Well, it's a question that anybody asks me, certainly of tilapia farming. Is it a successful business? You know, again, you have to look at the business. And it's not just the product that makes a business successful. It's how the business is established, how it's funded, how it's run, how it's marketed, and all of those aspects. And so, you know, again, going back to the chicken industry, you can ask 100 chicken farmers, is chicken farming successful? And the answers that you'll get were, I've made a lot of money out of chicken farming, it's the best thing I've ever done. Someone else will say you don't go near it, you know, for whatever reason. So you have to understand what your capabilities are in terms of setting up that business and running it. But in terms of a fish and in terms of commercial business, you know, worldwide we've got massive companies that are making millions of US dollars in farming tilapia. And so we can do exactly the same. You know, it is a product that's in huge demand and that can, like I say, certainly improve food security certainly within Africa and South Africa.
If we look at the practical stuff, if a farmer is interested in starting a new direction in tilapia farming, what is physically needed? I mean, how big of a space? What's your experience?
So the experience is that, you know, somebody would do some research, they'll watch our program like the one we're doing now, and they'll then have a look at how are we going to do this business. They're going to be fortunate that these days we can research a lot on the internet, and then we have this process where somebody would then either employ a consultant or do it themselves and start throwing money at the business. And so what we did was we looked at how do we pass on the basic knowledge and skills. And so we developed a single tank system that allows you to farm, let's say, 250 fish a month in an area, you know, the size of your garage. And that develops then all the skills that you would need to turn that into a commercial business. Because you're farming with one tank, and if you can do that successfully over a 6-month period, well, then you can do it with 2 tanks, 5 tanks, 50 tanks, or 100 tanks. And so we looked at how do we transfer the knowledge and skills that we've developed over 30 years to someone over a period of, let's call it 6 months.
I'm going to kick myself if I don't ask the question, because I'm sure that a lot of viewers are wondering, what does tilapia taste like?
So tilapia tastes like anything that you would eat a fish with a sauce or a cooking process. So you can buy it, fry it, boil it, steam it, bake it, traditional fish and chips. And so it's pretty much like eating chicken. You know, what does chicken taste like?
I knew you were going to say that.
Lemon and herb or piri-piri or Cajun or, you know, KFC type, crumbed and battered. And so that's one of the reasons why it's so popular, is because it's such a versatile fish when it comes to cooking and eating it. It's also eaten as a sashimi or a sushi, and so it can be eaten raw. And that's very popular from South American countries like Colombia, where they basically use lemon and lime juice to, let's call it, cook the fish. And then you would eat it with, you know, lemon and lime juice and some pepper as a raw fish product.
Well, I must be honest, I'm quite interested to taste it now. When we look locally and internationally, where exactly is the market for tilapia fish?
So again, let's focus on Africa, because that's what we do. You know, a lot of fish, and you'll even see it in South Africa. If you drive around, certainly the Limpopo province, the northwest, if you around Hartbeespoort Dam and Loskop Dam, you'll find people selling tilapia on the side of the road. So that's the real starting point for people getting access to fish. But we are now seeing it in a lot of our retailers and in some of our restaurants. Obviously, you need to ask for it sometimes because it's not on the menu. But it is becoming more and more popular. You know that 30 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, tilapia didn't exist in the American market. If you go to America today, almost every supermarket chain or certainly fish restaurant, you will find tilapia on the menus and on the shelves.
If somebody was is planning a fishing trip now in the next few weeks or so, and they are standing next to a river and they are fishing, how would they know if they caught a tilapia fish? How do they look like?
That's a good question.
I'm very interested. I'm invested in this now.
It's a normal shaped fish. So if you drew a fish, that would be what it would look like.
Yes.
We have different species. So we have in South Africa, If we go sitting to the Afrikaans names, the blauwkeuper, which is your Mozambique tilapia, which occurs on all of our rivers that flow to the east of South Africa. And then we have our rooiboskurper, which is a very, very pretty fish with a bright red chest, certainly the males when they're in breeding season. Very aggressive, so fishermen love them because they're good fighting fish.
Yeah.
And then a species that breeds like a mosquito is the your vleikeuper, or but it doesn't grow. It doesn't grow to commercial sizes, so it wouldn't grow much bigger than the size of your hand, which is still an edible fish.
Yeah.
When we're farming commercially, we need to look at obviously the market that we're going to target and the size of the fish that we need to put into that market. And so we also have imported the Nile tilapia, which comes out of the Nile River system. And you know that is the most farmed commercial species in the world.
Yeah. David, you and I spoke about the industry of aquaculture and aqua farming, and I just want to take a minute or two again just to focus on this. When we look at the industry as, you know, as a whole, you know, what can and should be done to make this industry more attractive, more exciting for future farmers? Do you have any tips, or, you know, if you had a wish list, what should be on that wish list?
Well, I think the industry is exciting enough as it is. You know, we get a phenomenal number of inquiries every week.
Wonderful.
But what the whole industry needs, and it's not just particular to South Africa, it's a worldwide issue that we sit with, is that for whatever reason, aquaculture has been put under the microscope by government and by the environmentalists. And so that has been a stumbling block in many instances.
Yeah.
And we've worked very hard, and government have come to the table, and we have been able to sit around the table and negotiate and draft the aquaculture bill. And that aquaculture bill should go through Parliament within the next year. And that just kind of makes the playing field a lot more stable and easier to operate in. You know, in terms of other kind of wish list things, is that finances now are also beginning to understand the industry and see the value of the industry. You know, we don't have a lot of farms that people can go and look at, you know, other than trout farms and very well established farms. And so you're really investing in entrepreneurs and in pioneers who have given their lives to the industry. But you're investing in very few people, and we need to get more people skilled, and we need to get more research happening. You know, there's so much research happening within the sector.
Yes.
But if you go to any of our own universities, none of that research is being applied in the industry because there's nowhere to apply it.
Yeah.
And so we are at ground zero, but the prospects for the future are, like I say, because of food and food security.
Yes.
It can only improve and it can only grow, and it will. It needs to.
Absolutely. David, thank you so much. It was really interesting talking to you. Thank you for your passion. I'll see you on the flip side.
Well, we'll see you on the farm as well. You need to come and visit.
I am excited. Dit was dan nou David Fincham van Tilapia Farming Africa.